All right. Hello, everybody. Just getting myself situated here, and just wanted to say hello. Hope you're having a good end to your week. For those of you who work for other people, I know this can be like a holy day for you. So I hope you're enjoying it so far. So I just wanted to pop on here and do my presentation about boosting business with books, and it's something that I have kind of run into like from time to time with certain people where they've asked questions about basically how books perform or like how they can help them in their business and stuff like that with promoting and everything like that. And so after all this time of hearing that here and there, I was like, okay, well, I'll just do one of these sort of things. And then anybody who is struggling with that or has a question, hopefully what I'm about to go through will answer it. And even if not, feel free to reach out directly and we can talk about it that way. Because I know everybody's business is different, not only in whatever it is that you're selling, but who you're serving, what your business model looks like, so on and so forth. So I know that what I'm about to show you is super boiled down, right, to the just the smallest common denominator here. But I know it can get kind of wild when we start comparing various businesses. So if you like I say, if you do have a question, just feel free to ask. You can comment wherever you're watching this, or again, if it's after the fact, you can just like I said, email me or message me wherever you're actually seeing this, and then we can kind of go from there. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, so the path to profits, right? So this is kind of what things look like for WriterWorks University, right? Like this is pretty much how things go. And of course, allow me to explain. But like I said, keep in mind, I understand. Like I said, different businesses they may have way more steps. They may get more detailed in certain areas, but again, I'm trying to make this as accessible as I can. So that's why, like I said, it's very much a distilled version of what some other companies might, their process might look like. So starting with awareness, right? So that just literally just talking about the idea that if somebody even knows that your company exists, okay? So if I've never heard of, I don't know, Nike, I can't interact with them. I can't buy anything from them, right? I don't know they exist. If I had never heard of, I don't know, Volvo, right? I would never have purchased the car. I would, you know what I mean? I can't be a fan of that brand if I literally do not know that it exists. So this is always in my mind, like I said, the first step for any business when it comes to trying to get those sales, right? And so the first thing we got to do is people got to know you exist. And there's plenty of different ways to do this. And again, we're going to talk about how a book may be able to help you with that part. So after somebody knows that you exist, right? They know you're there. The next step is generally some kind of cursory or whatever you want to call it, superficial or general connection with you. Something that's generally going to be passive as well. So, for example, um, you know, if you follow me on, I don't know, Instagram or whatever, there's nothing that's not a big deal for most people, right? To just click a button that says follow. That's not some high stakes, high risk, high investment kind of interaction. It's just like, oh, sure. You know what I mean? I follow these other 3,000 people. Why not add you, right? So a cursory connection is still good though, because it's better than no connection. Because I can just hear about Nike and never interact with that brand in any way, shape, or form. But I do know they exist, right? So okay, great. And again, that is better than not knowing they exist. But kind of the next step is all right, now I know they exist. Now I want to connect with them in a low risk way for me, like something that doesn't take a lot of time or money or energy or anything like that. I'm already on Facebook, so I might as well follow Nike's page, right? That's it. So these cursory connections are kind of like kind of like getting your foot in the door with people in a sense, right? They know who you are, they have some idea of what you do, and now there's a way that they have chosen to voluntarily be part of your audience in a sense, right? In a public manner, right? So, which is great. Like I said, that's a step in the right direction. So those cursory connections are going to be things, like I said, like following you on, I don't know, Twitch or YouTube, following you on whatever other social media platforms you're on, maybe even getting alerts like for your RSS feed on your website, things like that, right? Where it's just, man, I don't really have to do a whole lot here, but I'm going to connect with these people because I'm interested in them, at least on a basic, superficial level. Great, fantastic. Now, that being said, the next step would be direct connection. Okay, so direct connection is when we are giving, like as a consumer, I'm giving you my contact information, which is generally considered private to most people, so that you can send things to me. So this could be my phone number, this could be my mailing address, but again, 99% of the time, it's going to be an email address. So because of all the wacky stuff, of course, that can go on online and has happened online, it's I appreciate the idea that somebody would give me their email address and want to be on our mailing list, right? Because you just kind of never know what you're going to get or what's going to happen. So it's just really cool that people are like, yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? So that's good. Um, so that direct connection is really a key component of starting to move towards somebody, essentially becoming a customer. And there are various ways to get somebody's direct contact information. But it's a huge trust issue in a lot of cases. So if you do get it, please make sure you're being respectful. You're not emailing somebody 5 and 6 times a day. I mean, unless they ask for that, I guess. I try not to do that. Like we have not monthly, a weekly digest of just like blog posts and things like that have happened on the website. And for most people, that's not anything overwhelming. Once a week, and you get a list of articles and you get to click on the ones that you're interested in. But I didn't send you an email for every single article, or blog post that came out that week. Because if you were only interested in 2 of the 10, then you're feeling annoyed by the other 8, right? So it's just like, no, just here's the list. You click whatever you want to click. And then that helps them have a stronger semblance of control as opposed to being bombarded with all these messages, right? So that's the direct connection. So then we want to move from the direct connection to conversion. Like, okay, this person knows we exist. They follow us in kind of a superficial way, but they actually gave us their email address so that they could subscribe to our content directly through our newsletter, which is amazing, right? And so that's what we're seeing, and that's wonderful. Now, how do we get this person to actually become a client or a customer? And that's, of course, a different story. Going to work different in every, industry and everything like that. But that's usually the next step. So once somebody converts, once they actually have purchased something or, like I said, done whatever it is that you want them to do, then most people stop. I will say that. Like I've heard a lot of people where they're like, okay, great, I got them to buy something, and then they go back to awareness and they start trying to get other people like kind of through these 4 steps. And it's like, okay, cool. Don't get me wrong, like nothing wrong with that. However, what if there was a little bit more we could do with the people who are actually, already customers of ours? And that can be really, really helpful as far as saving you time and money, but not saving you time and money, but still getting you the results that you're looking for, right? So, for example, for WriterWorks University, we want to, like, our conversion would be, okay, somebody, purchased, I don't know, developmental editing or whatever. And fine, they got that, the book looks great, they're ready to put it out there, awesome. Now, the next thing is because this is just what I'm finding in for us in particular, you're right, it can be different for you, but for us in particular, once somebody has become a customer, we've served them, they have enjoyed the process, they felt taken care of, they felt like they got their money's worth. what I notice they will do is that they will then, when they're in those spaces where there are other people like them looking for those kinds of services, they will bring up our name. And so they essentially kind of advocate for us without, like, I don't have to do anything extra. I just did my job, like they paid me to do. And yet they're out there saying, hey, yeah, you need illustrations, you can go talk to Tanisha. Oh, yeah, you need a proofreader, go talk to Tanisha. Oh, you're looking for somebody to do a manuscript evaluation, go to Writerworks University. They're saying that. And so then we're getting these other people who are coming in. And then, of course, they start the cycle all over again, right? So they start the cycle from that advocacy interaction. Barbara says, hey, I know you're writing a memoir, Eugene. Why don't you go talk to Tanisha? And then they start all the way over at the awareness, right? Just follow the yellow arrow, right? And they start at awareness and start going through that process again. Now, here's what's key is that we usually don't have to work as hard when somebody has advocated for us. Why? Because we don't, like, all of these steps, going through awareness and cursory connection, direct connection, all of that are about trust. So we don't have to work quite as hard because we're leveraging the trust of the person who advocated for us. If my brother tells me that this is the best new game of the year, I am going to go buy that game. Like, I'm probably going to skip all the first, awareness technically, right? It's not being skipped, but there's no cursory connection. There's no direct connection. I'm hopping on Steam. I'm hopping to battle.net, and I'm just going to download it because he is just an annoying little brat, right? But my youngest brother, I swear to you, he has never recommended a bad game to me ever in his life. Every time he has recommended a game to me, I have loved it. Manga, anime, like anytime. So our tastes are apparently quite aligned. So for me, in that type of situation, if Josh is like, hey, this is the thing, I'm just going straight to conversion. I'm just buying it. Like there's nothing else that company needs to do because I trust him and his taste so much, and like how well he knows me so much. It's like, we don't even have to go through all that. Like, I'm buying it. It's a wrap, right? So that to me is so much more powerful, right? Than kind of like putting out a display ad on Facebook or something. It's like, oh, I hope people see it, and like it and kind of go through this process, because I think a lot of people, when they put out display ads, this is what they expect. They expect people to go straight from awareness to conversion. And it's like, maybe, don't get me wrong, it can happen, right? But generally, you're going to have to build up the trust in the relationship some kind of way in order to get them through that cursory connection, direct connection, to the point where they feel comfortable converting, right, and actually becoming a customer. So that's how that works. Now, you see I got the smaller or the more direct blue arrows that are going in kind of a cycle here. And that is representative of repeat customers, right? Because they converted, they got the service, and then they turned around and were like, oh, shoot, I need that type of service again. Well, I might as well go back to Tanisha. And then that is a beautiful little cycle that goes through where you're getting to engage with them and serve them over and over again. And you don't have to kind of start all the way from zero with a new person, because they already know exactly what you have to offer. They already have been through your system, right? You know what I mean? So they're all like, their information is already in there. Y'all have already talked about the things that they like and don't like about a particular product or service. So you can more easily kind of customize the experience for them based on where they are in the process or what it is that they're looking for. And it's just a much easier transaction, right? And experience on both sides. And so it's like easier money, right, than the very first time they came through this process with you and became a customer. Okay. So just to give you an idea of what I'm about to talk about, just to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. So now we kind of know generally this is how it works, like I said, at least for us. So now, all right, where do books come in? Like, how does this carry over? So books generally come in, again, you can do whatever you want. Everybody's process is different, but generally I would say the top four are the ones that I have highlighted with the little speech bubbles, right? Between awareness and cursory connection, between cursory and direct connection, between direct connection and conversion, and between conversion and advocacy. But again, what does that look like? What does that mean? Right. So, for example, if you have somebody in, let's say you go to like a trade show or something like that, and this has happened to me many a time, right? Where it's like you go to a trade show or conference or wherever, and you're trying to promote your business, sell your wares, what have you. What can happen is that you'll have somebody that will come over and ask questions. And for me personally, I can very easily get caught up in a 30 or 45-minute conversation, because one of the biggest questions I get, of course, is, hey, I see you've got, plenty of published books. You publish other people's books. How does that work? And again, that's easily a half-hour conversation, right? Meanwhile, there's other people who want to buy stuff or have other questions or whatever that I need to tend to, right? That's why I'm here. So back in the day when I was first starting out, it was very much a situation where I was sitting and having that 30 or 45-minute conversation, probably missing sales, probably missing connections with people who would have enjoyed our services, and all because I didn't have a way to quickly and easily answer this person's questions without sitting and directly talking to them for an extended period of time. So here's where books come in, right? So it's like, okay, if I had a book that I could just hand to them and say, oh, okay, well, you want to know how the whole process works? Here, this intro to indie publishing has covers most of the major steps, and that'll give you a solid idea of what that's like. Because this is the process that I follow, and this is the process we follow for our clients, right? So that turns a 45-minute conversation into a 10 or 15-second conversation, right? And I can just hand them the book, and I can go on about my business, and they can go on about theirs, right? So that is a way that can happen. But generally, in some other industries, it may be a little more complex, right? So, for example, when you're trying to get somebody who is merely aware of you to follow you on social media, one thing you may talk about, if you were going to do a book at this stage for the, this segment of your population, is the benefit. First of all, identify whatever the benefit is to following you. Like, what do they get out of that? Yeah, it's easy enough to do or whatever. So it's not usually a big ask, but just like, what am I really getting at? I mean, I can do it, whatever, get some warm and fuzzies because I support a small business or whatever. But like, is there anything that's coming back to me that's of benefit and value to me regarding following you? And if you can identify what those things are, then you can start to create a piece of literature around that. Now, again, all throughout this, we're talking about books. I'm focusing on books because, again, that's what most people have been interested in. But keep in mind that it doesn't have to be like a novel length anything. Right? It could be something that's just a few thousand words about one particular topic, like maybe the hottest thing that people are asking you about, right? So let's say you're a mechanic and you keep having to explain to people why it's important to, I don't know, put the appropriate type of gas into their car's gas tank, right? Because maybe you have people with some, I don't know, high-end cars, and they're trying to put the cheapo stuff in and run into problems. And you keep having to correct them, say, okay, listen, like, this is why you have to do that. So again, instead of sitting and having that conversation with them, maybe you could create a little ebook, right? Again, maybe a couple thousand words type of situation, nothing super strenuous. And just that conversation that you have with them, just type it up, right? Just say, okay, listen, here is why you need to make sure that you have the appropriate kind of gasoline going into your vehicle so that you don't damage it, and list all that stuff out. And so not only list what, the different octane levels or whatever mean. I don't know enough about this. I just threw it out as an example, but what the different octane levels and stuff mean. And if you know anything about like how the gasoline is refined and things like that, people might be curious. Throw in a couple paragraphs about that. No big deal. And then explain what are kind of the worst case scenarios that people have run into when they put the wrong kind of gas in their car, and how to avoid that. Right? And you may even want to just throw in some general maintenance things about, just owning a vehicle, right? So like I said, this little ebook is something you can put on your website and let people just download it for free. And then it's something that when you're at like trade shows and stuff like that, it's something that you can just print out real quick in like a packet, or you can do, Staples or something, and pay for actual booklets. If you have like a comb binder in your office, whatever, right? Just whether it's Staples, Cone Binding, Perfect Bound, whatever the case may be, put that little booklet together and then have a stack of those. And so when people come and ask those kinds of questions, you can say, here, take a look at this, so that's an example. Right now, again, it's going to be different for whatever your business is, whatever are kind of the common issues that you run into related to what people don't know about your industry or what people don't know about your products. And that's kind of something you can do and go ahead and put in there. Hey, for more information like this, you can follow us on Facebook, or you can follow us, on Instagram or whatever, and just make sure that that kind of content is on there, right? So if I'm putting out a book about how not to get scammed by people posing as publishers, it's helpful that somewhere on my website or in my social media feed or something, there's that kind of information is available, which it is, because I regularly run into scammers. And so that just is a prompt for me to, oh yeah, let me post again about, the red flags that people, I think it's helpful to them to watch out for, right? So from cursory connection to direct connection. So let's say, like I said, and then I should say, so I'm not saying you necessarily have to have a piece of literature for all four of these places. All I'm saying is, depending on what you want to do for your business, what you think would be the most helpful, here are 4 areas where you could consider creating some kind of literature to help support moving the person from point A to point B, right? So moving them from awareness to cursory connection, moving them from cursory connection to direct connection, and so on. So I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I'm not saying you got to do all 4 of these. I'm just saying these are some options and what they might look like. So for instance, so cursory to direct connection. So let's say they're following you on Instagram, but of course you'd really prefer that they sign up for your newsletter. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's a similar idea though. It's like, okay, what benefit is there to me as a consumer or as your follower to relinquish my email address, right? Remember, we talked about trust, right? To you, so that you can contact me directly, right? Without having to go through these other platforms and things like that. And then once you identify what that value is, then the book would be how to use that information for even more value. So an example might be that people are coming to you and people are coming to you and they might, so like they come to us and they might be looking for like the free lessons and stuff at writerworksuniversity.com. And that's great, right? And that might be more of a cursory connection thing. Like they've been on the website, they've read a couple of lessons, they're learning a little bit of stuff. Hey, that's awesome. So on the website, we're gonna say, hey, you can sign up for our newsletter, and it's just a weekly digest of all the blog posts and stuff that we put up on writerworksuniversity.com. As I said, then that way you don't get bombarded with several emails every single week. There's just this one, and you can go through and you can click and choose, which articles you actually want to read. It's amazing. So if I'm trying to get somebody to get onto that list, that's what I would push, like exactly what I just told you. Like, hey, you don't have to come back to the website, over and over again. It's coming directly to your inbox. You're just getting a digest. You're not being bombarded with emails. And you can even, bonus, right? You can even sign up for different genre emails on our list. And so like if you're a writer and you mainly write romance, let's say, right, then you probably want to get notifications when we either are recommending and promoting or have produced through one of our imprints a romance novel of some kind. And then maybe you also read, I don't know, mystery and science fiction, whatever, right? So you can pick those. And then that way, on top of the weekly digest that's about writing and helping you with your authorship, from time to time, you will get emails saying, hey, we got a new romance novel coming out through Astana.com. It's called Criminal Ties. And, it's about this social worker who's fallen in love with her client and blah, 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 right? Just explain all of that. But again, they asked for that, right? It's not something I'm just sending them out of the clear blue sky. They said that they wanted that. And again, it's not I'm emailing you 3-4 times a day or even every day type of situation. So you don't get bombarded. It's just when there's something going on in that genre, then, we will contact you. So understanding that that's what people will be getting with the direct connection by actually being connected through the newsletter, you might then try to, like I said, leverage that and say, all right, so if you get all of those things, how is that going to help you, right? As an author or as a reader. So an example might be for a plumber, you get a members only discount on plumbing services, or you get access to a 24-hour like emergency hotline for, plumbing problems. And so the book would basically be spent explaining how helpful that can be, especially with people who, for example, have a lot of bathrooms, like they own an apartment complex or something like that, or they own, I don't know, a natatorium. They've got several pools that they need to manage or something like that, or people who like rent event spaces, right? And if a toilet stops working, it can be a disaster. So they want to be able to have that hotline and be able to like, nope, I need you to come on right now and fix this toilet, or this sink that won't stop running and just flooded the bathroom, or whatever is going on with them. So that's kind of a way that you can do that. But again, through all of these, the basic idea is there is a benefit to moving to this next step. Let me explain to you not only what those benefits are, but how they actually help you kind of take things to the next level. So then if you're going direct connection to conversion, like, okay, I'm on the email list, or I don't know if you got like a podcast, I'm listening to the podcast, I'm getting that, whatever. Why would I switch over to actually buying something from you? And so I have recently purchased an Xtool laser engraver. And I think that and of course, Glowforge and these other kind of laser engravers, they do that really well by showing you exactly like what it's like to be an owner of their product, and showing you, hey, this person sells these, purses she created with our engraver for like $250 a pop, and it cost her like $20 worth of pine or something like that. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. So it's just like, at this point, if you were going to offer someone a book here, it would be about talking about how awesome it is to have your product, or to have received your service. What are people out in the real world doing with your paper craft toolkit? Like, how are they actually using your motivational journal on a day-to-day basis, right? So yes, testimonials, but digging down a little bit deeper and saying, okay, you got money troubles. Let me tell you, how this can help. Hey, you feel like your life is getting overwhelming. Let me tell you how this can help, right? And let me show you. It's not even like, let me show you how this helped this customer over here with her anxiety. Let me show you how this helped this guy over here make his bike last 10 years longer than it was expected to, or you know what I'm saying, that sort of stuff. Like, when you partner with us, when you buy from us, this is what you get, and gosh, don't you want that? You know what I mean? That type of situation. So you could do something like that, where you're at a place where you have a lot of direct connections that just aren't quite moving over into the customer category, and you're trying to nudge that. So then conversion to advocacy. Now, a lot of times you don't have to do anything here. Remember, right? Very often when people have had a good experience with you, they're just going to recommend you just regardless. Like, there's really nothing special that needs to be done in so many cases. Not every, but a lot, right? So if you are in a situation where you feel like, well, I've served these people, they seem to be having a good time, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything seems to be cool, but I haven't gotten any referrals from them. They don't, they're not sharing my stuff on social media. They're not, whatever it is that you want them to do as far as advocating for you, that's not being done. Now, what I've run into sometimes is people are, they are outliers in their circles, right? So they're the only writer in their circle. So like, who are they going to recommend, right? Who are they going to recommend us to? They don't know any other authors. And so it is a little bit difficult, right? But even in that situation where you're like, well, I mean, how are they going to advocate for me if there's nobody around for them to advocate for me too? It's like, okay, well, help them build a community that they can advocate to. See? So in our particular situation, it would be along the lines of, oh, okay, I see you're kind of writing, like on your own. You feel like you're the only person who's around you that really writes on a regular basis. So let's try this. Why don't you get connected, right, to some other people who write? Build your own writing community because it's really helpful. And again, in most industries and, for most people, it's really helpful to have a community of people who are doing what you're doing so that you can get encouragement, inspiration, support, so on and so forth. So I would be talking to them about or putting in a book or a report or, like I said, whatever you're going to do. I will be putting in that document why it's so helpful and how it can boost their book sales and all kinds of stuff if they are connected and really plugged in consistently to a writing community. So this means that they are going to writers critique groups that, again, there's plenty of them. They're literally all over the place. I would, recommend that they go to meetup.com or Eventbrite or somewhere and find groups that meet in their area, or even just online if they want to do that. I would be encouraging them to go to trade shows, so these various like conferences and conventions and stuff that are related to writing and publishing books. I would be encouraging them to go to become members of their local writers guilds or clubs or whatever they call themselves in their area, because again, then they have a regular, consistent connection with other writers. So, for example, I am connected in some way, shape, or form to, gosh, I would say probably 10 or 15 separate groups of writers, from the Atlanta Writers Club to the Alliance for Independent Authors to the Editorial Freelancers Association to the American Booksellers Association to just my my writers critique groups here in Atlanta. I'm part of two of those. It's like there's all these different places where there are groups of writers that I regularly interact with. And so all I would be doing at this point is encouraging that happy client to do the same. And in book form, that might look like, okay, here's the things that I recommend you do. Again, go to Meetup, go to Eventbrite, join the clubs, join the, organization, blah, 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 do all of that. And again, here is why that's helpful. And so once they're in there and they're plugged in and they're surrounded by all these people who may need services that we provide, that gives them more opportunities to talk us up if that's what they want to do, right? So I basically can take that issue out of the equation because I just taught you how, or told you, where to go to get that network so that you do have people to advocate to. Right. So pretty straightforward. So again, consider your business, what is going to work for you, and like how these, like at which point you think would be better for you, to actually start to use a book for helping to move these people in your purview from one spot to another. So for example, if you just launched your business last week, you're probably going to want to focus more on converting the people who are aware that your business exists to becoming cursory connections, right? For other people, if you've been in business for a long time and you're just now realizing, gosh, I really do just stop after conversion. I don't, that's it. I just move on to the next one. Maybe I want to try to consider nurturing some advocacy so that my past clients are essentially working for me, right? By letting people know about me and pushing them through some of these earlier processes without me having to do anything extra, right? So, and then wherever you're at in between. So just think about that. So here's the other thing. Like some of you, I'm sure, you're going, well, Tanisha, I have, a business card for these things, or I have a website for this stuff, or don't you know that I spend thousands of dollars on ads to do this type of stuff for me? And again, I'm not here to tell you that's not my goal, right? It's to say, hey, you should drop every other marketing thing that you're doing and just focus on books. I don't think that makes sense for most people. I've never run across anybody where that would make sense, put it like that. But what I'm saying is, here is an extra possibility that can help. So, for example, think about a business card, right? So a business card is a little piece of paper. It's got a few bits of contact information on it, maybe a sentence or two describing, what you offer, and that's about it, right? Like that. That's what's on the card 9 times out of 10. So there are some disadvantages to that. One is that you have to keep printing them like over and over again, right? When you run out. And so, whereas if you were pushing something like an ebook or a report that's just like a PDF that's a few pages long, you literally can send that to people an unlimited number of times. You can put it on your phone and do near field communication swaps where you just hold your phone over somebody else's and they get the document. They even have those, digital chip cards nowadays where somebody can just wave their phone over the card and they could download your contact information. Well, you can do a similar thing with, ebooks and stuff like that. So, whereas with a business card, like especially like I said, a paper physical business card, you do not have that luxury. And it's not super convenient for the consumer either, because now they have this piece of paper that they have to remember, where they put it. And so if they toss it in a purse, if they slip it in their wallet, if they put it in their back pocket, God knows what's going to happen to it after that, right? Just like it'll end up in the washing machine somewhere, or I don't know, nail polish will spill on it in somebody's bag, or I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can happen between them putting it away and then getting to their house, right? Especially if you're something like a days long conference. Now, again, most of business professionals, they do make an effort to, keep and hold on to people's contact information, stay organized with who does what and all that type of stuff. But so you may have a better chance there, but generally when you're dealing with consumers, that's not going to be the case, right? And so having a book, and don't sleep on an audio book, okay? So if you're not a big writer, but you're a big talker, you can still do the same thing with an audio file. Again, I would say, like I said, just make it short and sweet. You don't want to be trying to hand somebody something that's hours long necessarily. I would say for an audio, anything, if you can do 5 to 10 minutes, like that's pretty reasonable. And then what's great about that is that people can just listen to it, like even when they're at the conference, right? Because one of the big things is with even with like an ebook or a business card or whatever, is they're trying to go and see and experience all these other things at the event. So they don't necessarily immediately just stop and start reading your ebook, or stop and start, you know what I'm saying, like looking at your stuff. But with something like an audiobook, that is a little more possible, right? And it's a little more exciting too. People just like that, right? And for some people, especially if they are dealing with something like dyslexia or certain eyesight problems, like just the whole idea of trying to read a book can be really like, oh, because it's an extra struggle for them versus the next person, right? I'm totally fine with reading books, of course, right? You see what I do for a living. And so like I can do that all day long with no problem. But other people who struggle, it's more of a burden to them than it is of a benefit. So if you're able to say, oh, well, I got an audio book too, if that's easier for you, you'll probably get oh yeah, that'd be great. You know what I mean? And you can say, yeah, and it's only like 6 minutes long. So I mean, it's not a big deal. You can listen to it, while you're getting ready in the morning for the next day of the conference. You can listen to it while you're on your flight back home, whatever, while you're in line getting coffee at Starbucks, like what, it's so short and sweet that they can get all that benefit, but it doesn't feel like it's this big chore to actually consume the content, right? So consider that. The other thing about a business card is that it doesn't really add any value to the person's life. Like they have your information, but like, so what? You know what I mean? And again, if they're at like a trade show or something like that, they got 50 other people's information. Like, so being able to offer them that little bit extra is often what's going to help you stand apart from everybody else, right? And especially beyond something like a pen or a memo pad or something like that a lot of people will try to do. Again, nothing is wrong with those things, but everybody and their mama is doing that. You know what I mean? And so if you can find a way to make you stand out and your company stand out a little bit more, an ebook can be a way to do that. So beyond that, I guess to continue that thought, it's just like as far as adding value, when you're doing the ebook stuff, you're giving them content and you're giving them answers to questions that they have, and you're giving them possibly skills, right? Depending on, if you're teaching them something. So for example, you could, let's say you own a diner and your ebook is going to focus on easy recipes that they can do at home, or it's going to focus on ways to enhance really basic dishes that they may be creating at home because they're low on funds or something like that, right? So for example, ramen, instant ramen. Like, I'm sure everybody at some point, has had a stock of Maruchan in their cabinet, right? So because again, well, at least back in the day, you used to be able to get them for like 10 or 20 cents a pack, and it could be a whole meal, even without anything extra in it. But I've always had fun with bumping it up a little bit, right? So boiling the egg and slicing it and slicing up some green onions, maybe frying a couple pieces of bacon and putting that in there. You know what I mean? Like really making it look like a little bit more of a robust meal. And so not only is that fun to do, but it's also, of course, more filling to eat. But I didn't, I probably overall was still spending maybe $2, for that bowl of ramen, versus, if I had gone out to a restaurant or something like that. So consider something like that, where it's like, okay, if you have an ebook that can teach people how to make cheapo meals, but like just kick things up a notch, then that would be a way to go. If you do something that has to do with food or cooking, or even if you just sell like kitchen appliances or something like that, that's a way to actually add value to their lives. You taught me something, right? Or heck, you just made me feel better about something, right? And so I think that is really the key thing, because essentially what that does is you start to form a relationship with them, even from afar, quote unquote, right? Y'all haven't really sat down and had a big long conversation. You haven't spent a whole lot of time with one another. But if you gave me this ebook that inspired me to go be a chef, I am immediately, like, when I get the chance, your company is where I'm buying all my tools and appliances, right? To do that, because you were part of that journey. But again, if all you had done was hand me a business card, I don't know how much impact that would have had on, on the person, as far as inspiring them to do anything or answering any of their questions or teaching them new skills, so on and so forth. So when you think about that, hey, I got a website, hey, I got an ad, hey, I got a business card, that's great. Like I said, keep doing those things if they are giving you the kind of ROI that you're looking at. But I do want you to understand and respect the benefits of actually producing content that people can take away from their interaction with you. Because again, with the business card, it's not really adding a lot of value. It's not content per se. It's literally just a way to identify you or contact you if they ever decide to do so. We don't have any guarantees that will happen, right? With the website, the issue can be just the fact that they have to go to the website to get the information, right? Whereas if, again, I'm standing at a trade show or a book launch or whatever it is, and I hand you this ebook or this audio file or whatever that you can go immediately right now and start consuming, or when you get home, you don't have to go to a website. You can just sit in bed and start reading it, right? Or listening to it if I've done an audiobook thing. That can be a lot more powerful than saying, hey, go to my website. You know what I mean? Right? And then the same thing with ads. Of course, with ads, depending on what it is and how it was made and all that type of stuff, they can be really interesting, really funny, really informative, all of that jazz. So that is great. Again, do not lose that. That's fantastic. But I don't see any problem with still having that type of expert content as a backup, you know what I'm saying? Or as an additional thing that you can offer to people. At the end of the ad, you could say, hey, because another thing about the ads is very often you have a limited amount of time. Like you've got 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever. You don't have a 10-minute ad, and who's going to listen to a 10-minute ad necessarily, right? But that's where content marketing can be really helpful, as far as like, okay, this isn't an ad per se, like I'm going to teach you how to change a tire. And in the background, of course, the hope is that you will think of Tony's Tires the next time that you need a new set or have questions or whatever, and you'll come visit us at 123 Main Street. But it doesn't, it's not set up like a commercial. It's literally just, here, I'm going to teach you these steps. And so if you're doing display ads though, or billboards or anything like that, first of all, just the expense, right? I mean, it costs a lot of money. You can write an ebook of the links and stuff that I'm talking about, or record an audio, a piece of audio in 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how fast you type. You do another 10 or 15 minutes of review and revision, hand it to some other people, let them look at it. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you can send it to us, right? And so you can get that kind of review on it and just kind of make sure it's solid. And then you can put it out into the world, I mean, very often in just maybe 1 or 2 days. It's kind of ready to go, because it doesn't have to be some big formal, where you actually go through and get an ISBN and have a launch date and do pre-order. You don't have to do all of that for something like this necessarily. You can if you want to, totally fine, but you don't necessarily have to. It's just more about getting it out there and starting to let people interact with that content, starting to give it to them, especially if it's free. Now, as you get later down this line, like we were talking about, you may want to start charging people for these pieces of content, especially once you get past the direct connection. So in the direct connection, the conversion, or the advocacy, you may want to consider selling essentially these reports or tip sheets, or like I said, whatever you're going to end up calling them. And again, not, for $47,000, right? Just like, instead of free, maybe $5 or something like that. And then at that point, it just becomes an extra revenue stream for your business, which can be, of course, really, really helpful. I think people understand that. But this is why I say, an ebook, or again, any kind of literary thing, or like I said, audio file, whatever, is something that I would recommend simply adding to your toolkit, adding to your strategy. I'm not saying you have to stop doing whatever else you're already doing, especially if it's working for you. But I've seen a lot of people, I've been part of a lot of people who wasted a lot of money on display ads when ebooks or audiobooks could have done a lot of that work for either completely free or a fraction of the cost, and with a bigger impact on the consumer as far as actually making them want to come and work with WriterWorks University, or actually giving them something that they can hand to a friend who they think WriterWorks University is a good fit for. You know what I mean? So that's the basic idea. It's another method. It adds a level of passivity that can be really helpful. Like I said, once you spend that first couple of hours, kind of getting it together, and you let it go, and you just start using it at your trade shows, on your website, on your social media profile, so on and so forth, then you're just kind of off and running. So it can be very much a kind of a set it and forget it sort of thing, but it can keep reaping those benefits. And it's almost like having a little marketing assistant, like you're right, well, just working for you. And then that way you don't have to spend so much time and energy trying to find new customers and, work on those relationships with them to try to get them to the point where they want to actually become a customer of yours. So that is the basic idea. I hope that was all clear. If you do have questions, like I said, feel free to contact me. You can go to getbookhelp.com, or you can reach out on social media at WriterWorks University, and I will try to get back to you as fast as I can. But a lot of the stuff about actually creating a book is on our website, so that if that's all you need, then that's good. But if you go to getbookhelp.com, you can actually set up a free consultation so that we can jump into the nitty gritty of saying, okay, how can I make a book of some kind work for me and my company? Because again, everybody's got their different circumstances, right? And I've brought up a few different examples: mechanics and kitchen appliance salespeople. And like, if you work in insurance, like, all of these industries are so vastly different. There's going to be all these little nuances that are going to influence your decisions about not only what you want the book to contain, or the document, like I said, if it's not a full book, what you want the document to contain, how you're going to distribute it to your potential customers, and that sort of thing. Do you want to charge for it or not? So on and so forth. So we can have a conversation about that, so that way you can make an educated decision that's actually going to help you see some results. So I don't see any questions in the comments. Let me double check some places, but I think we're good. Okay. So then I will just call it a day at that, since I don't see anything popping up. So so again, reach out. I will probably be doing another one of these soon. If you want to dig a little bit deeper into what the actual book development process looks like, then you can join one of our Publish a Book This Year sessions, and that's really what that's all about. And there, the ones we've done in the past should be floating around the internet somewhere. So feel free to do that as well. And when you go to getbookhelp.com, you'll be on our stores page, and it'll say classes, and you can click on that and just sign up for the next available class whenever you're ready. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a good rest of the weekend.